Hi, I'm Tempest.
I'm Christina.
We're the Sirens.
Season 2.
Today we're going to be talking about...
Being the boss.
Oh, yeah. We're both business owners.
We are indeed. In fact, we owned a business together.
We did. Indeed.
Back in the day.
I think learning how to manage people is the hardest thing I've ever learned.
Yeah, so much so that I had an epiphany last year that I never want to manage anyone ever again.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's really the trickiest, most painful situation to go through. You can only learn a lot of it in real time. And if you run your own business, I didn't get any management training. I learned some things from observing. Like I had a lot of jobs, so I observed good management. But if you work in a formalized corporate structure, you actually do get help with some of them.
Yeah, definitely. And I've had my own business now for this business for 5 years. And there's a point when I had a big team and I was like reading loads of like management books, but actual management takes so much time. I think what's not taught is how to be a good manager inside of a small, scrappy startup. Because as a business leader, you are then required to have so much time and energy poured into usually the doing of the business. It'll often sort of start from your idea or something that you produce. And so there's that aspect, the vision, the creative journey, like where you're going. And then also you have to manage people versus like in a bigger company, there are people whose sole job is to manage people.
Yeah, you're so right. I didn't even think about that. The title is manager, but for us, it's not. It's creative director, producer, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then and I also have to deal with all of these people.
Yeah.
I have mostly managed women. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on today. It is not that I mysteriously have no issues with men in the workplace. It's just that I have much less experience in dealing with male employees. I mean, I mostly also deal with freelancers. And obviously in the arts, most of the people I deal with are creatives. They come with their own fun. Fun baggage, sparkly baggage.
Oh, sure. I've been a bit of a mix. So I have employed both men and women, but definitely more predominantly women, and have worked sort of alongside men and women at a sort of similar level, which I think there's unique expectations that come from female employees to female leaders that are maybe not talked about or taught. Or even correct.
Not today.
Yeah.
So as a woman, do you feel that there are any extra expectations on you as a manager?
Oh, so many. I mean, I think we touched on this in a former episode. I can't remember exactly which one, but around the concept of the girl boss, right? That really hit home. I feel like when we were in our sort of early 20s, mid 20s, it started to become on the rise. Which thankfully I think has been deflated as an idea a little bit. And it was this concept that you could do everything, right? You could, at the time I was too young to be having a family, but you could do anything you wanted, right? Like you could have a fabulous social life and lead a great business and be super fit and like take time to go to the gym and have all your friends or your family or whatever. And that is, I think, been displaced a little bit as an idea, although not entirely. But I do think that there are still these expectations that you will, it's a weird one. I think I have faced expectations that I will lead in the same way that a man would, but that I will also retain all of the kind of social norms, for lack of it, like the social concept of what a woman and like what a feminine woman would be as well. And that I should be able to coexist, like live with both of those happening at the same time.
Oh, okay. Tell me more.
So I think I have always found that there's this level of expectation that I will speak more softly, that I will like lead directly, but that I will speak more softly to employees, that I will be gentler with employees, that I will be friendlier to employees. This to me is bonkers. I would never expect a male or female, but I would definitely never expect a boss to that's
going to be someone's trigger word right there.
Sorry, but it's true. But I would never expect them to be friendly with me.
Yeah.
I would expect them to be kind, considerate, fair. I would not expect them to be friendly.
Yeah.
We are not friends, but people always seem to expect that I should be friendly, and that if I'm not friendly, I'm a bitch, or I'm cold, or I'm some sort of like woman trying to be a man.
Yeah. I'm interested that you included the word kind, because for me, and maybe there's a switch over in how we both use the terms friendly and kind, like the kindness tax on women really strays into the working situation. So yeah, I totally agree with all the things that you have raised. You're meant to be likable. Like there's a lot we can talk about, like likability, but all of these have a tax on them as far as I'm concerned, a time tax, because there is this expectation that you will take extra time and labor with no consideration given to your own personal well-being. So you're in this kind of structure where everybody's well-being has to be taken into account, except for you. And you must be this robot who has no personal life, no pressures of their own. And you must dig deep past your own issues. And I agree, like you should be professional at work. Everyone should. And then find the extra energy. And again, time in a day, which you just don't have if you're a small business working under pressure to accommodate everyone's desires. And, you know, the most basic one of that is I can't just say, can you go and get this now? I have to say, oh, excuse me, if you're not too busy, do you think you can go in, blah, blah, blah. That's just a simple time and energy tax. Why does it take me 4 times as long to ask somebody for something than it would the expectations of a man? Now, I do think that's changing for men. Sorry, guys. Welcome to our side, whereby they are now being roped into this expectation of being kind of like infantilizing in the workplace, treating your employees like they're your children. This is insanity. Yeah, it's one of my biggest bugbears. I suppose I should acknowledge that, you know, in production, there are times when your company will, and private events as well, know that, like, you know, get that costume now is a perfectly reasonable tone of voice under the pressure of time, in a way that maybe in other companies we would never be allowed to speak more bluntly. But I've had conflicts with people over that in a very time-tight situation where I questioned how somebody had done the job that I've left them to, because I felt that they'd not done it up to standard. Then they cried solidly. Then I had to explain to them, when I said, you can never talk to me like that ever again. And I had to say, well, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't swear at you. I didn't belittle you. I didn't call you any names. So respectfully, I talked to you in a way that suggested that you had let me down by the standard by which you had done the work that I had asked you to do in a much bigger time frame than it normally takes to do, and you still hadn't finished it. I mean, then you're in the zone where you can never critique anyone for anything, which I think is a world that a lot of people have to work within.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, I mean, I think it's like a whole minefield now, because I remember when I was coming up before I was the boss, and I mean, there's like a whole world of really horrible things that I hope have gone forever around like sexual harassment and you know, the sort of icky parts of things. But then you also just did have, people speak directly to you and they would not be very nice about it. And some things that people have said to me, I don't think it's inappropriate to be mean. I don't think it's inappropriate to be rude. But I think to what you're saying...
Oh, you mean appropriate? I think.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't think it's appropriate to be rude or to be mean. But I think to what you're saying, what is considered rude for a man to say to an employee when they are critiquing their their work behavior is totally different to what is expected, or at least previously has been expected, of what a woman should be saying and how they should be phrasing it.
Yeah, totally. I think we still have this fantasy of like the tech genius sits in my head, or even like, you know, the detective who's rude and brusque and quite antisocial and scruffy, but they're a genius, so it doesn't matter. And everybody's like just desperate to work with them, as if we would ever be allowed to do any of those things.
Oh my God. You know, I had a raging psychopath. I've had a couple of a former boss, and it was always crazy to me because he also mostly worked with women, right? Like most of our clients were women, and he would just act in the most outrageous ways, telling them they couldn't do their job, screaming at people, making people cry. But people just kept working with it. They still do, because they're like, oh, he's a genius at what he does. And you know, so you know, it's interesting that you phrase it like that, because the people who do 99.9% of the work at that business are women. He just shows up and acts like a psychopath, and you, for some reason, find it endearing. Yeah. But the people who are actually making the genius behind that man are women. And they could never behave like that, or you'd fire them in a second.
Yeah. And again, I mostly work with women, so maybe women who work with a lot more male employees would disagree with this. But a lot of the pressure I find is very feminine. So the expectations on me to behave towards some, not all, I'm in the happy position where I get to choose very quickly, again, because they're freelancers, who I work with and who I don't. I have the ability, I think, to cycle through people and find the right fit at both ends much more easily than other modes of business would. I think women place a lot of undue expectation on bosses and their female bosses to kind of cosset them a little bit. What's that about?
Oh, God. I think I need to restrain my level of eye rolling during this episode. But yeah, it is. I think I've experienced that a lot. And again, for me, it's always built on the sort of friendly aspect, right? You know, you're meant to take on a little bit of this maternal role, but you're really like, you're like supposed to be taking care of them. You're supposed to be taking care of your employees. And maybe I'm just an absolute asshole to the core, but I don't feel that I should be taking care of my employees in a way that is about their, coddling them. I think that I should provide a steady stream of income, a work environment where they feel safe and comfortable, a work environment where they feel, that they can do what they need to do and they can do it to the best of their abilities. And I expect them, if they're going to continue to get that steady stream of income, that they will do it to the best of their abilities. And if they don't, I will fire them. But I just think that's what I feel I should be expected to do. But I have been in so many positions where, I've been told that no, I need to be, it's like hugging them more often, having like a kumbaya session. We had one point where we literally, I was getting some external ideas thrown into the company, not from a managerial perspective that were not my own. And I was trying some things that were different. And one of them was that twice a week in a small company of 10 employees, we had to have a session where we talked about how we felt. Yeah. And I thought, I'm sorry, I don't care. And I don't care that I don't care how my employees feel. That's not our relationship. I'm not having sex with them. Like, I'm not married to them. Like, this is not like, I don't go into the coffee shop. I might ask how their day is going, and I'll have a real chat with them if they want to like unload a little bit. But I'm not your therapist. I'm your boss. Yeah. Why is that confusing for everyone?
Well, it is apparently nowadays. And I do have to blame the spread of HR. And I don't know what order we'll drop these episodes in, but I said in mental health. I didn't invent the saying, and I wish I could remember who said it. So I'm sorry for plagiarizing, if that's the correct term. No industry resists its own expansion. And the difference to when, like, I temped in an HR office, it would have been like 2000, so a long time ago.
Back when the dinosaurs roamed.
Yeah, basically, for like the council growing up for probably about 6 to 9 months. And what HR was responsible for then versus how HR exists now. And I think, it's this whole sort of, it's tricky because it's come from a space where particularly women have been placed into really terrible situations at work. And harassment and perhaps racism or homophobia, like we used to live in a much more disagreeable culture in that way. And so, some of this impetus is very good, making sure people's work environments are professional, making sure that people aren't suffering undue harassment or stress or, being talked to in a way that's dehumanizing. Tick, 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 tick. I'm happy with all of these. And I can imagine in a big business, because you're also dealing with hiring and firing and holidays and all this kind of stuff. Like, that's what HR was. But I don't live in a corporation, but, I'm around a lot of people that do. HR now is basically mummy. It's like having to call your mum all the time because someone's mean to you or someone makes you feel sad or uncomfortable. And it's just like, I hear stories about employees who I know are in their 20s, 30s and 40s. And I feel like a parent is telling me about what their 12-year-old did. the HRification of our whole society has just seemingly gone to a place that I don't think is productive and I don't think is healthy for everybody involved in it.
Completely. I would also say I don't think it's healthy often for the HR individuals who are doing that job. Because I had a woman who worked for me, and her husband worked for a very large company, a Fortune 50 company, and he worked in HR. He had no special training in HR, but he would literally have to sit in on these meetings where people were talking about, a family member who'd just been murdered and why they needed time off for that. And, all these things which you think actually, also, if you didn't sign up to be a therapist, it's a lot to hear and to be in a conversation where you were listening to all of these horrendous things going on. That's something you actually are supposed to be trained in terms of like how to have that kind of listening so that it's not bad for your own mental health.
Yeah.
But the fact that you have people who have, obviously, there would be more senior people who had gone through, more extensive training. But the fact that you even have in a company that size someone who doesn't have formal training or extensive formal training, who's in these situations, who's also in these situations to decide the fate of these people, is crazy. Like, what?
Yeah, it's very odd, isn't it? This dominance of HR now. The HR department is the most important department in the company, I guess, second to...
Do you think so?
Yeah, I really do. In terms of company culture, in terms of power. Like, I guess, like, you're always going to be held to the bottom line for a lot of things. So maybe, like, the second most important department. Oh, yeah, you wield huge amounts of power. And often people who get into HR, especially kind of nowadays, because... Do you think HR has kind of been subject to a lot of very modern ways of thinking about things? Like, those employees can be very young. So, the whims of the company culture are sort of in the hands of some 25-year-old who's just graduated with a degree in psychology but never had a job. Like, this is not a sensible way to run things. Sorry.
Yeah. It's, and I guess maybe, I feel like there's also, and this is very much just like a feeling, I could be totally wrong. I get the sense that you obviously had this boom of tech businesses, right? And so they started offering all these crazy things, right? And I've got friends who work in Silicon Valley for Google and Meta and some of the other various, large companies out there, and they get insane benefits, right? And some of them are genuine benefits. And I feel like there's this culture that suddenly, that's what, that's why they're so happy there. And other companies who even can't afford it should be trying to have this kind of, benefit-rich culture. But some of those benefits have a darker, like a more sinister side to them, like the benefit where they will pay for you to freeze your eggs. On the one hand, it sounds nice, like it saves you thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars. But on the other hand, they are doing that so that they can get you to work for longer. You know what I mean? Or like the fact that they have canteens that are open 24 hours a day. It's so that you can, or like pods you can sleep in. It's so you don't have to go home and you can just keep working.
Absolutely. There's a whole, because some of those benefits are also like tax deductible and stuff. That's such a capitalism thing. Just pay people more and provide childcare. And I guess in America, like health benefits, or even now here, given the state of our NHS, I'm sure private health insurance is actually really welcome by your employee. I'm guessing there's a whole lot of reasons why it's more in the companies or the corporations. It tends to be in big places, isn't it? It's benefit to provide benefits rather than translate it into wages and stuff. There's a whole funny thing about WeWork and the history of WeWork that's very tied into what you're talking about. I don't know enough and probably getting a bit derailed.
Watch the miniseries. It's so
good. Is it on Netflix?
Good. I can't remember if it's Apple or Netflix, but man, it's good.
Yeah.
It's got Anne Hathaway in it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did like some podcast and a deep dive, so I know it from that. Anyway, if you're interested in this, go and look up WeWork and you'll get your fill of really terrible corporate culture in this way.
Yeah.
So back to being the boss. What did you have any light bulb moments where you kind of, or steep learning curves when it came to being a self-taught boss? That's kind of what you and I both are.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh gosh, so many. We could just ramble on here. I could ramble on here for all day. I think there was it's, I think over the course of my career and, and also, again, growing up and starting businesses back in the day when, sexual harassment was more rampant, but also comments like, I remember I had a little business way back in the day, and it was like a shared working space, and there was a shared coffee area. And I went in to go make a cup of coffee, and the guy was like, "Oh, are you like the new secretary making the tea?" I was just like, it's so disrespectful. I feel like he was like trying to be nice in his head. But I was like, no, I have my own business and I am making coffee for myself. But no, I think for me, the journey has been about figuring out, and being okay with the leader that I want to be, and actually just being like, I've been through the rigmarole with various employees and what they want, and I've just landed on I don't care anymore. And I've let all my employees go. I'm a business of one officially, and then have some people that we collaborate with closely. Which I think is a business model that suits me better. But yeah, I think for me it's just been about finding the confidence to go against the grain of what is expected of being a female leader, whether it's being like, I'm not a particularly soft and cushy person to people who are not in my absolute inner circle. To all of them, I'm a teddy bear, but to anyone outside of that, that's not my personality. And I'm okay with that. Like I provide I do a great thing. I do think that my career has not been as successful. I've run like multiple multi-million-dollar businesses. It's not unsuccessful, but like I think I could have probably made more money, if that's how we're gauging a version of success, if I had played the game more, if I had been that like woman, like taken on more of that kind of like social butterfly kind, whatever, like high school version of how people see women. But I think now it's just, embracing I am the leader I am. I am a woman, and it doesn't necessarily like jive with what people expect from me. Yeah. How about you?
Obviously, because I was thinking about this episode, I think the first thing you have to accept, and it's lonely at the top. That's like new information. But I think when it's you and you're experiencing it for the first time, especially when all of a sudden you're in charge of people who you once used to be on a similar level to, and people really don't like that. That's just part of human nature. It's not even a statement on them. And then I think what can happen when that happens is you feel that you have to overexert your authority to like make the mark that like you're in charge now. So firstly, accepting you are no longer on the same level of like intimacy, friendship level of the people who previously you might have been. And that's going to feel quite isolating. Yeah. So you have got to find other people to offload onto, because you cannot moan about being in charge to other people that you're in charge of about other people in the company. It's bad form. It's going to land you in some difficult situations. And also their opinions aren't necessarily helpful because they're not speaking from a place of understanding at the level you are. So like you have to go and find friends or mentors or whatever you want to call it, colleagues who are not in your company, who understand what you're going through. Otherwise, you really will be very traumatized and alone, because so many things. We're going to come back to that, but I'm going to circle back a little bit to what I said about learning. I think I did this. I think it's quite common. I've seen it in other people. In order to try and establish yourself as somebody who is in charge, you overexert your authority sometimes. Yeah. And you got to learn to come out of the other side of that, because it's not great, to be honest, but it's understandable. And then, what did I say we'd circle back to? Because with the isolation thing, I think you also just have to come to terms with the fact that it's not personal. People who work for you are going to moan about you, and that's another bitter pill to swallow, sometimes unfairly. I have people out there in the world who say things about me that I know aren't true, that people who know me well know aren't true, but they feel they have to say it because otherwise they look like the person who behaved badly, the unprofessional, the fucking dick. And you can't control that. And I do think it's legitimate to moan about your boss. Everybody's moaned about bosses that they even like. And that's just the work day. Yeah. And you sort of have to accept that as well.
Yeah, I think you absolutely have to accept that you cannot be friends with your employees. Like, that's a completely different relationship.
Yeah.
I think the isolation thing is such a good point. I think it's why a lot of entrepreneurs seek out other entrepreneurs, because it's not just that you've now cut yourself off from maybe some of your social circle or like previous social circle. It's also that there's just so much going on when you run your own business that has, I think running your own business has a lot of unique stressors, whether you're a woman or a man. And it's just, not everybody can understand that, because it's a completely different mental approach to be fully responsible for not just yourself, but the people who work for you and the client and, whatever output you're doing as a business, over somebody who says, okay, I'm going to do the best that I can, whatever that looks like. And I'm going to show up at a certain point, and I'm going to give sometimes the best version, sometimes not the best version. And I'm going to take the security and that's the exchange. That's a completely different mindset.
Yeah.
And level of responsibility. And then I think one of the other things too, to touch on what you were saying, I think sometimes when people, it's not even that they, like, I feel like when people have badmouthed me sometimes, it's not that they would have to admit that they were in the wrong. It's that they genuinely don't see it that way, even though I do not see it, even though I do not agree, because everybody is the hero in their own story, right?
Yeah.
So I am the villain in some people's story, and that's just
Same.
life. Yeah, like you run a business, good luck being the hero in everybody else's story.
Like, it's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen. So I'm definitely the villain, and but for those people, they're the hero of their own story. And I think one of my sharpest and most painful learning curves, for many reasons, some of which I won't go into, was around letting people go and around, you just have to take this approach I've found in running when you do have employees, around getting on the HR bandwagon and having really steady check-ins, around telling them why they're not doing a good job, which I don't love doing because I don't love confrontation. But you have to do those things, because even if you can see that somebody has like massively effed up, to be fair, if I haven't kind of given that feedback in a really structured, really set way, then suddenly, despite the fact that they have maybe cost me £10,000 and they've done something that, like, even in our book of manual, like our manual, like it's a fireable offense to them, because I haven't gone through certain steps in letting them go, I'm some sort of like supervillain. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then I think, I completely understand why you've changed your working model, because firstly, I understand it just on a day-to-day level. But of course, when you have a company and you actually have employees, then you do have legal obligations. You do in all facets, but even more so because you have the contractual sort of processes and your HR processes and stuff. And, you have to be really mindful of those, which again, if it's not, you don't really start a business to worry about HR codes of practice. You do it because you have an amazing passion and an idea for something, or hopefully you do. Otherwise, trust me, you do not want to start a business unless you're really passionate and excited about something, because otherwise it's an endless slog for not much joy. That's really tough. The villain thing, is so interesting. Do you think it's harder for women to accept that? Because I think we have much more of a societal pressure to be the likable, the communicators, the kind of the one that keeps the peace, the healer, the communicator, and that I think men seem to me more comfortable and more groomed for a role that places them, their kind of achievements and their ambitions and their successes come first, and then those other things, how much people like them. I don't think it's held against them as much, and I don't think it bothers them as much.
So interestingly, of the men that I have worked with, this is just super like, specific. They are much better, but I wonder how much of it is also happens a little bit more with men. They're much better at compartmentalizing things. So for the men that I've worked with, business is business and life is life, and they're not the same thing. So it can still be painful and it can still, hurt their feelings, but the kind of understanding that you are the villain for a lot of people is easier, I find, for them, because they can just compartmentalize it. It's just business, right? Like, it's just like, all it's fair in love and war, and it's just business.
Yeah.
We're talking about war here, so like, it's fine. But I would say that I still have friends who are male entrepreneurs and, have had difficult times where they don't like being not liked by everybody.
Yeah.
But what I would say is that when I compare my experience to theirs, which again, we're just talking about like two people here, or me versus a small group sampling of people. It was the time when I had to like really own that and be like, okay, yep, this is just like how things worked out. And this is actually what it's going to be, was much more difficult for me. Like I really struggled with being like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I'm totally fine to just be the villain.
You think they reconciled it faster, even though
do.
it hurt them? Maybe they're the same.
No, I think they reconciled it faster.
Got you.
Yeah, I think it like still hurt.
Why do you think?
I think, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think what you said, I think that men are taught to just, be business leaders, and that's just what the territory that it comes with. Versus women are taught to be likable business leaders.
Yeah. I think women are also taught, and to be honest, there's a big biological imperative for this, to be communal in the way that men are much more individualistic. And again, there's probably a biological component to that as well, in like the development of society is what I mean. And I imagine that helps. I mean, there's downsides, obviously, and positives too. If you agree that our innate female things, to do with communication and stuff. But that does also leak into the suffering when you have to accept certain personality traits come with being in charge.
Yeah, definitely. What's your stance on MLMs? Did you look into this at all as like part of this episode?
Oh, no, I did not. As a new name for pyramid schemes and stuff. Curveball. I fell down a little MLM rabbit hole in my podcasting journey a few years ago, so I'm not unfamiliar with the territory. I mean, if you get at the bottom, you can make a lot of money, but they are inherently exploitable. There's lots of interesting hoops that companies like that jump through because pyramid schemes are illegal in a way that multi-level marketing
it is not.
Is not. It's mostly done by women as well. Is that why it's on your mind?
Yeah. That's why I looked into it a little bit. And because I don't know if you've ever seen the LuLaRoe documentary.
Have.
So good. But for the LuLaRoe company, you had to invest something like $5,000 to $10,000 just to get started. And you were told that you were a business owner, but you simultaneously couldn't choose what inventory you got, which obviously if you were like owned your actual own fashion boutique, you would. And they went through a lot of heavy lawsuits around basically being a pyramid scheme. But there's also, I was just doing a little bit of research on it, because according to the FTC, 99% of people in MLMs either break even or lose money. 99%.
That's wild.
So how is it not illegal?
I didn't realize it was quite that high. Yeah, well, technically it is, yeah. I think that...
and 75% of those people who engage in them are women.
Yeah. I think they have a very effective lobbying arm, at least in the States.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Because it is illegal, technically. But Amway, I think, still exists.
Avon.
Yeah. Yes, I think they spend a lot of money on government lobbying.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. And I think, it's part of why LuLaRoe was so successful is because they targeted, and I think a lot of MLMs, because they target women who, they pitch it to them as you can be flexible with your time. You can do it. You can choose your own hours, so you can be a good mom and a good stay-at-home wife, and then you can also, do this on the side, but you can make loads of money.
Yeah.
Interesting. Avon started 34 years before women got the right to vote. So they're out there selling and making money and
That's crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah, in that sort of really tugs at your heartstrings, actually, because, you can totally understand, you want to be at home, or you are at home with your kids. You need to balance family life. You want to be productive. You want to either contribute to the household or have your own source of income for independence. Yeah. You want to keep your brain active. You want to go out and meet people. It's so exploitative and really, I think, latches onto a dark part of perhaps how women, particularly in motherhood, just are incompatible in some ways with corporate culture.
Yeah, absolutely. I think exploitative definitely feels like the word, because obviously in an ideal scenario, it sounds great, right? And we would all want that for somebody. But there was a study done on on, there's a test case of people who were engaged in MLM, and their average income was something like 5 cents on the dollar once you actually added up all the messaging and the Facebook messaging, the time they spent, advertising things online, and just crazy. But it's that I think the thing that bothers me about it is it's feeding into women this concept that you can kind of have it all, and that you can still be a boss, right? Like you can be your own boss and you can be a stay-at-home mom, and it's versus just respecting that like a stay-at-home mom is a full-time job, and and that you shouldn't be trying to kind of force this toxic, like this is like, I don't know, maybe I'm conflating it with the sort of toxic positivity you see online around, there's no problems in running a business. Like it's so easy to do. Just buy my 2,000-pound course and, you'll be making millions tomorrow with no hard work.
Yeah, exactly. And even the language bothers me a little. Like, I run my own business. And I was kind of like, respectfully, you don't. You're a salesperson who's largely selling to other people who are selling to other people. I mean, it's a business of sort, an illegal one. Not the same as being the director of a limited company. Sorry, it just isn't. And then you build in a lot of like affirmation, don't you? You have these huge rallies where there's like music and confetti and like all these like mantras. And I can understand how people really enjoy that, because it's also fulfilling, I think, a personal need, isn't it? It's stuck.
But I think also if we live in a culture where, success is often seen to be that you are financially successful, that you are successful at work, and then you don't have that in your life, then of course it's alluring to be, having confetti thrown on you and you did you sold $10,000 worth of stuff or whatever else. Yeah.
And everyone's like applauding you. Changing the tack. Do you use the term imposter syndrome?
Oh God, I think I have. How
do you feel about it?
I have used it once in a public speaking engagement, which I regret. But I think there are, it's a funny one. I think I don't like the term, and we can go into it because I would imagine I agree with you. I'd like to know what you think about it. But I would say that there is the sentiment of it can be true. Like I am more experienced than 99.9% of the people in my industry in this country. But I will still sometimes go into a meeting and get nervous, which is outrageous. Like I could run circles around the people that are in the industry that I'm in. But and oftentimes, because I don't love self-promotion, they often don't know the level and the scope of the work that I have done, and the quantity of it. But yeah, so I will still sometimes feel weirdly nervous about things, but I think that's more to do with self-confidence than imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I would say that's totally natural, especially again, we sort of exist outside a formalized structure, especially if you're running your own business or it's a smaller business, because you're not rewarded in the same way as you might be in other jobs. So in the root of kind of what people talk about when they talk about imposter syndrome, I do get it. I don't necessarily think that the feelings are fake. The reason I find the term a little insufferable, to be honest. So my issue with imposter syndrome, I think, runs on two tracks, if you'll bear with me, and I will hope that my brain will keep up with both of these. Firstly, I think there's this culture of women in business saying, women need to take up space. We need more women to speak plainly, to, dominate the room. Yeah, we love it. But actually, when you watch women business to business, what tends to get rewarded are expressions of insecurity. So the woman who gets the loudest clap in the room is not the woman who just stands up, bluntly says her opinion. What will often get the most applause is the woman who goes, oh God, I'm so nervous about being here today in front of all of these amazing other women. Honestly, I have such imposter syndrome. You're all so amazing, but here I am. And I just wanted to say, and she has to kind of self-humble before she's allowed to take up space. This drives me up the wall. This is, I think in our women episode, we used to do the lies that we tell ourselves. And this lie that that women like one type of women when they don't, they prefer another type of women. We really have to get past that. It's tedious. It's draining as hell. And I see this on social media as well. You'll get accounts with women who are flourishing in a particular field. And it's almost like they feel like they get too big or too unlikable in their success. And maybe this is also a British thing as well. So I'm not sure this really happens in the States. Whereby they then have to zone in on something in their lives that makes them a victim of some sort. So it could be a health issue, some kind of challenge that they face. And look, these things could be true.
Sure.
But they then, then we have the crying videos, and then we have to have the blow-by-blow accounts of a thing that is entirely unrelated. And it's all parceled up in this idea of like, I can't just be successful. I then have to kind of bring my insecurities or my challenges or humble myself in front of you. And then what's so negative to me is the feeding frenzy that happens on that. People really enjoy that. And it has this link, when women talk about imposter syndrome, because I feel, again, it's a lip service to the idea that you have to acknowledge that you don't feel totally confident in the role that you're in to make yourself probably more likable. And also just because, I don't know, like most people are blagging it. I think probably men are either more comfortable with this or at least are not socialized to talk about it all the time. I know from men I know who, are in other fields, they're winging shit all the fucking time. And I appreciate somebody might be like, yeah, that's why the world's... I can literally hear somebody being like, yeah, that's why the world's in such a terrible state, because men are winging it all the time. Listen, let me tell you a cold, hard fact. Okay? A few years ago, I started DJing, as you well know, because you've given me some incredible gigs. And so I learned very recently, actually, how to do something I found it stressful to get better at, and put myself into situations whereby I was having to move forwards. I had to take on things that were a stretch of my ability. Like, oh my God, like you have to be like, I can do this. And you prepare, and you have to bring a bucket load of confidence, and you dig deep and you do the thing, because you cannot progress until you put yourself out there, rise to the challenge and achieve. With that in mind, ergo, for a significant period of your time, you are always going to feel like you're faking it. You don't really know what you're doing. Somebody's going to find out that you're a fraud. You're not as good as you said you are. And so I think that they're actually very natural feelings for people who are in a field that, has ambition, where you have to keep moving forwards. And so I just really dislike this lie that somehow, this isn't a syndrome. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I completely know what you mean. And I think it's interesting because I think you will sometimes see, like women when they're, giving speeches that they have, it's sort of like the celebrating of this victimhood that they have had to go, that needs to be like a barnacle attached to them to be inspirational and to be relatable, that they do have to be less than at some point, to have been acceptable, to have reached the height that they have reached. Versus I feel sometimes when you hear men give similar speeches, it's not so much, sometimes it'll be about the hardships, but it's oftentimes about how they, as a visionary, have seen something and they're working towards something, and they're going out and they're being celebrated for their achievements rather than their victimhood. Yeah. And it's just, even though ultimately I'm sure the successful woman would like to be more celebrated for what she has achieved, you're right, it does oftentimes, it feels, have to come with this caveat of, finding something beyond just the actual life journey of it to really be okay with it all.
Yeah, it's so true. And I hadn't considered what you said about it's enough to hear about a man's creative vision and that he achieved it, and already I'm on board. Because I love hearing people do stuff like that. And when I was thinking about this, I was sort of thinking, okay, we have to sort of I don't know why I was thinking of churches, but this kind of very I think of it as very American, evangelical, I sinned, I fell, and then I rose. And I think that's an acceptable narrative for men, but then you always end on the rise. But with women, it seems to happen in reverse. When a woman gets to a certain status of success, then she needs to drag up the fall. Men get to fall and then finish on the high. This is toxic as hell.
I know. And it's funny because when we started talking about this, you mentioned that it, might also be for other women, this benefit, right? or benefit to appeal to other women, which I think is true. But actually, as we're speaking it out, I think it's also that just in general, we still live in a culture that is threatened by powerful women. I'm not sure if you ever do. I'm embarrassed to say that I've definitely, over the last few years, been in situations where I did feel I needed to not shine as brightly as I know I am capable of in a meeting or in a scenario, in a conversation, because I know that that would be threatening to the man that I am speaking to.
Oh, that's interesting. You need to dim your shine or you need to soften yourself. I've definitely been guilty of another woman who I actually really admired, who was very unlikable in a great, admirable way, laughed at me once for like, even just like my voice just went like when I asked for something, I'm just like, oh, do you think we could maybe have this? And like, look, sometimes you got to temper yourself to get what you want. But it should never stop you shining, I think, at the level that you are capable of shining. Like,
of course. I mean, I'm not sure if like what like mixture has created this, but I don't know if you've ever found. I will sometimes find if I'm in the company of men or in mixed company that I will, and we had talked about this on a previous episode, I will have to dim down my shine, because often just my shine of having like achieved what I have achieved and done what I've done and knowing what I am capable of doing and where I sit in my skill set compared to the rest of, rest of the world, rest of my industry, I am often seen to be so confident that I also take on like a sexual element.
Oh, got you. Yeah, I was going to say, are you sure they don't find that attractive? Yes, that's the problem.
They do find it attractive.
Yes, because I definitely don't feel that men are intimidated by my achievements. But yes, I can totally understand. Actually, sometimes they might be too thrilled by your achievements, and you've got to temper that as well. Yeah, I do understand them.
It's such a strange.
Oh, gosh, exhausting.
Now, a friend of mine, this would have been maybe 15 years ago, I'd say. At least 10. She was a successful businesswoman. Her mom had been a super successful businesswoman. And she told me that she believes that behind every successful woman, doesn't matter what the appearance is a man helping her behind the scenes. And she's
okay.
and she was like, and that's a fact of life that you can just get on board with or you cannot.
Yeah.
Now things have changed in 15 years.
In what context did she mean that? Because you also have the saying like behind every successful man is a woman, meaning doing the tidying up, the PAing, the cleaning.
So I think what she meant was somebody who, unlike that version of things, was potentially providing financial backing, connections to financial backing, providing like business and connection support to make sure that the business was successful.
Okay.
Because they would naturally be a little bit more tapped into those things normally. Not naturally, normally.
Okay. Is this maybe not this is
it's
not
a tangent,
so
so like we don't have to
as
talk
I'm
about this.
interpreting it in that but this is statistically changing, but previously, and you're saying this is 15 years ago, the dominance of people in most senior roles are male. So it's quite difficult to get ahead if you don't have some men to open doors for you.
Yeah.
If that's what she means, then
That's what she means,
okay, right.
Yeah. No, sorry, not somebody who's like, you're too stupid to run your own business. I mean, she ran a successful business.
Yeah.
But her point was that we still, back then at least, and I'm curious what you think about, if you think it still rings true now, that we still lived in a world which was so male dominated in business that, you may want to not think it's true, but the fact is, to have a successful business, you do need a man supporting you and being your champion. To other men,
yes.
basically.
No, I do get that. I suppose a more benign way of saying that could be you need the support of those above you. If those above you are predominantly male, then yes, her sentence can ring true. But it's not necessarily that it needed to be a man. It just more often than not was. Is that stand?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I don't know that most people would agree with the fact that you need people above you to help you be successful. I think that might become an antiquated concept.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, that seems pretty obvious to me, in that even if it's just through mentorship or connections, introductions, I mean, there's no point in networking if people beneath you or potentially on the same level.
Sure.
Although I guess if you're all the way at the top, everyone's beneath you.
I mean, yeah, but I would say that I definitely see more of a trend. I don't want to sound like too much like an old cranky woman, but or a cranky person. But you definitely I see more younger people who who just don't believe in the concept that you should start at the bottom and work your way up. They believe that they're
still
entitled.
In fantasy land.
Yeah, you're entitled to enter at the top or like just below the top.
Yes, I also believed in Father Christmas.
Wasn't that nice?
Yeah, good luck to them. Unless there's some kind of nepo baby, but then you still have someone above you. It's just normally your mom or your dad or your uncle or whoever.
If you could start again, what would be the advice that you would give to young Tempest Rose starting a business? Or any listeners out there who want to start a business?
I think when I was younger, so I've touched on some of them already, and so I won't repeat because you can just rewind. I think when I had a disagreement with somebody or I was the villain in someone's story, I really, not just that it upset me, but that I went into like panic mode that I'd done something wrong. Like actually something terrible had happened and I had done something awful. And this was like, you start sort of catastrophizing in a very emotional way. I'm not sure how you just sort of have to live through that. I don't know if that relates to what Julius, our friend, always used to say, what's the worst that can happen? And at the time, I'd be like, well, this and this and this. In fact, I have a long spiraling list of all the worst things that could happen. But, then you experience a lot more. And now I find myself saying that to other people. And I must think they think what I think, which is, the fuck are you talking about? I wish I'd learned faster to care less and to be less emotionally invested in people who are so obviously skewing things to their own perspective.
Yeah, I think for myself, those are very good. And I think just having the ability or like training myself to have the ability to compartmentalize more. That what happens in work, these are employees. It doesn't matter what they think of you. It doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter what they do. You have to build this working relationship, and whether they're freelancers or your employees or the people that you work with. I think for me, the biggest stress point has been that managerial aspect. It's not about the creating or the doing, like all of that I feel good about. Is this part that I don't like, and I think has been a big struggle for me. And I think, it would be just remember, like, they are not your friends. These are not your people. These are literally like you have a relationship where it is, transactional. It's a transactional relationship where they need to do a job and you will pay them an agreed amount for said job.
Yeah.
And therein lies the end of the relationship.
Yeah, I think that maybe, and I do agree with you on most of that, like, if I had more formalized, like I have employees, I would totally be on board with that. I think when you work with a lot of freelancers, and I wonder if you're moving slightly into a different model, how you'll find your way through that. Because when we were prepping for this, I think you said to me like, but you actually socialize with a lot of the people that work for you, and how do you manage that? So I did sort of think about it. And I think some of those people have been with me for like 17 years. And we have to operate this weird thing, which I didn't realize until one of them pointed out to me years ago. It's like, oh yeah, I know when I'm talking to business Tempest and when I'm talking to personal Tempest. And like props to them, but also I think our relationship wouldn't have lasted if that wasn't the case. Like it is very much like you have to be, if you're in this space with people, whether you're collaborating or you're freelancing, and this I think also, it's a type of compartmentalization, isn't it? This is work talk. Now we can talk about friendship, but you cannot really very successfully mix the two. Or very rarely can you, because otherwise then you start taking personally or finding things upsetting. Like what is acceptable for your boss or even like a business partner to say to you is very different to perhaps what you might expect your best friend to say to you. And very occasionally I've had to say, okay, as your boss, this is what I mean. If you want to go for a drink and talk about your private life, whatever it is, I'm more than happy to set aside some time to do that. But right now, that's not what my focus is. I have to get this bit done. But yeah, shout out to it's very rare I actually have to do that with people who've been with me for a long time. I then sort of started to consider, because I work in entertainment, we're already working in an environment where things aren't as they are in an office. Being backstage with somebody, having drinks after work. I have to explain this to new performers sometimes. It's not that our work is a party, it's that you're always at work. I'm at work at 3 a.m. after 7 tequila shots, and someone's got into a situation that I need to help them out in, some kind of trouble. It might not be work related, but I'm still their boss. Do you know what I mean? Or equally, somebody who's more important than me has turned around to me and they want to talk about an idea for a new show, and I better be ready with an opinion on that right there and then, because my future work with them relies on that. So I think it's this weird thing of like, it's not really socializing in the way that you and I might socialize. So another close friend of mine, it's this weird, like, your work socializing. And I know that gets very poo-pooed nowadays, and you're not really supposed to, like, I don't know, there's all this like Gen Z stuff about like, never go for work drinks, never tell anyone at work any of your problems. Yeah, it's super like militant. And I'm like,
how are you
God,
supposed to meet people?
How are you supposed to meet people? How are you supposed to make friends? This is a totally joyless existence. It's the opposite extreme, which I also don't agree with, as bring your whole self to work. I don't want your whole self at my work. I want the part of yourself that is appropriate to the situation
This is
that we're in.
so
Okay?
crazy to me, this concept. Think, no.
Yeah, no, I don't want your whole self. I'm not even sure I want half of yourself. I want the slitter that relates to burlesque right now. Socializing. So often when I'm interested in seeing if I'm going to work with somebody, I'll invite them to a show and then see if they stay after to have a drink. And it's not necessarily whether or not they drink, it's how they conduct themselves in an environment that's not formalized, which will be after work, quote unquote, in a more relaxed, when everyone's sort of chilling. But we are still at work, because I need to be able to trust that they understand instinctively what professional boundaries are in scenarios that are more fluid or recreational.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that applies to my business in total. And it's why we have a small group of performers that we work with the most. And it is harder to work with new performers, because I have had occasions where, I hired somebody who I'd worked with before, had been professional, has been, a professional performer, done lots of corporate events before, and literally got so drunk that she got on stage with Imagine Dragons and started dancing, and then started like trying to do drinks with the guests. And you think,
oh my goodness.
And I wasn't there. And the client tried, it was like last minute, they hadn't paid me, and they tried to just not pay it. Their entire bill. I mean, and we're a small business, and it was a large bill at the time. So, we almost had to go into litigation. It took 3 months to pay, which was going to have a huge impact on the rest of our cash flow.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, nightmare,
Yeah.
right? And you never want to be put into a situation like that where you don't trust that the people who are working for you understand the difference, even when you have a client who says, sure, you can have a drink. Yeah. No, you can't. No, you can't. No, you can't. Like, the answer for us has just turned into has to be no. Yeah. Because you can't, you need to trust that people like understand the boundaries.
Yeah,
and
that only comes with knowing them really well, because people can tell you
their
behavior and their professionality, but that's not, what people say and what they actually do are not the same. So yeah, some of that is like testing to see how people are in a way that they might not realize what I'm looking for.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I would say goes back to earlier in the thing, you just need to make sure running a business can be incredibly fulfilling. It can be exhilarating, but it is unbelievably stressful and incredibly lonely. And you have to make sure that you have your people that are outside of your business that you can be with, and that you can, there might be a mentor. I feel like that's like an acceptable step to remove.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just have to have like your group of people, because it's a hard journey. It's not easy.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, to be fair, although we've moaned about the fact that like no one ever takes into like our emotional journeys into account and how we might be feeling that day, you know, the fact of the matter is that is appropriate. Like you are the boss. Like sorry, but whatever it is, go phone a friend. Like you cannot bring all of that stuff into the workplace. And you know, I've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it. And I think it gets tricky when you're in more fluid work environments where you don't have a heavy corporate structure, where maybe sometimes you might not have even have worked in another work environment, but I guess it's the flip side of what you were saying, you know, in that formalized relationship, like you do your job, I do mine. Your job as a boss is to be above the kind of emotional hurly-burly of the situation. And whether that's because you have to problem solve or because you've had a terrible day, but you can't put that on the people around you as much as, you know, you need them to be able to be contained about
their problems. Yeah.
Exactly. Like what they're bringing into the workplace. You set the tone of the workplace, don't you?
Yeah, completely. Being the boss.
Oh, yeah, definitely the hardest thing.
Yeah, for sure. But I wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh, no. Then we'd have to deal with somebody else as our boss.
It's a no from me.
It's a no from me. And on that note,
we'll see you next time.
Bye.